Breaking news. We have breaking news here on Kristen and Co. Hello, Dame. Hello, Kristen.
Hello, Pete.
Hello.
Breaking news. Dame, this will mean something to you. Kristen, I sort of already shared the news with you today. Today is our colleague Ben's birthday, and his team had a little shindig for him this morning here at the office, a little surprise. And they brought donuts. They, as many listener knows, and by listener I mean I don't know how many we have these days. I went on Weight Watchers last week. Last Monday was my first day on Weight Watchers. 2 Mondays ago, I guess you would say. So I am now officially 11 days into Weight Watchers, and I was presented with I believe 24 donuts of my liking today to say, would you like a donut? Last week on the show, Dame, I expressed the general hangriness that existed in my soul. And as I shared with Kristen in pre-show, I'm feeling pretty good. Down like 9 pounds. I looked at those donuts this morning. I'm like, I'm good. Wow. I'm fine. I passed on a donut. The breaking news is I passed on a donut.
Were they longs?
They were not longs. It's race weekend, so to get anywhere near longs is I don't know if they like Ben that much.
Yeah.
But they're rise and roll. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So they're delicious. But I wouldn't know because I had overnight oats. So hello. Dame, we were in an all-team meeting this week, and I said, Dame, big plans this weekend? Because in my mind, the ACD festival was this weekend. And then you looked at me like, whatever you're referencing, sir, is not happening. When is that festival?
That would be Labor Day weekend.
Oh, the confusion.
Yeah.
Kristen, what are you doing this weekend? That's a Memorial Day.
I think that I'm going to a greenhouse.
Is that a euphemism for like a cannabis store?
So you're going to Michigan? Yeah, is that what I'm saying here?
No. I need more plants.
Also euphemism?
Yeah.
Actually, you bring it up, and I was actually talking about this morning. I saw a story this week. Daily marijuana use surpasses alcohol consumption.
I saw that.
How do they measure that?
I don't know. In dime bags, I believe. I don't. This is not not my world, right? Not my marijuana is not my thing. Apparently, reading this article, it's like what has happened is that people have been smoking marijuana like cigarettes. Like it's turned into a cigarette style usage. As not a recreational thing that you do occasionally, but it's a lifestyle now. And I'm like, well, I don't need a new hobby, so I think I'm okay.
Yeah, you've got youth sports to think about.
Oh, Lord. I can't start with that this week. Maybe after the show. Hello, Sarah, the Rev, David, Jason, Andy, and Big Rick Swink, the first one to the party this week. Lovely. All right. This week's show might be good. It might not. But I want to admit something before we get started here. I dug deeper into the tool we have here at Your Moneyline, which is you run your entire financial life from this dashboard through your employer, and you attach all of your accounts, and it just tells you what's going on, right? Kristen, familiar with this?
I am actually familiar with this, yes.
Dame, yeah?
I've seen it once or twice.
So I dug in, because for all sorts of reasons that don't matter. Guys, the Dunn household of West Carmel is spending a little too much on food these days.
Yeah.
But you're on Weight Watchers now.
I know. Okay, so that is a good thing because that'll change the dining out a little bit. But the spring was just a busy time for us, and we saved time as we know how convenience works with carry out and these. Wow, we spent some money on food. So we talked about it. I'm going to be grilling out a lot this weekend.
Nice.
You know, you're on Weight Watchers. Are your kids upset because now they have to suffer too? Because not only did you review your spending, but you're on Weight Watchers, so now they don't get carry out?
That's a great question. I'll maybe Mrs. Plinner has a different opinion on this. If I'm going to sacrifice or suffer or whatever, I don't make everyone else do it. Like
good.
I will either make myself something separate or just change the quantity. But we eat pretty healthy. Like last night, random meal, grilled pork tenderloin, Brussels sprouts, and some wild rice. Like that was the meal. So that's normally how we eat dinner anyway.
Mhm.
I don't know. Anywho, boy, no one cares. I was transitioning into the show to there for just a second. And then I thought, boy, literally no one cares. Dame, we are roughly 1 month away from the brand new studio.
Yes.
The brand new studio. We are moving out of our current offices, moving to different offices. And the studio is being painted, I believe, today. I was over there yesterday. And boy, oh boy, I don't know what it's going to look like yet.
So is it true that you've had zero input as to what your studio is going to look like?
Who'd you hear that from?
Ben.
I say it was either Ben or Oz or somebody.
I have some functional input, like we're just going to do a wall-mounted camera, some wall-mounted lights. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I don't care.
All right.
Will you be orange in the new studio?
Good question.
Boy. No. Apparently, we're getting a new camera too. Nice. So it's very exciting. Here's what I don't know: the sound quality of the new, the old, is the room dead? I don't know yet. I don't even know if there's carpet in the new studio, or if it's the polished concrete. So
you're gonna have those foam things on the walls.
I might. Okay, boy, am I just spinning tales that no one cares about today? That's what it feels like. Oh my Lord!
He was putting it to me. I appreciated it.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, let's do a show. I didn't hit the calculator when I pulled up the timer, so it might be a good one.
Thank you, Weight Watchers.
But I did just log 2 points accidentally. No. Overnight oats.
Hey.
Let's go. Old man. In 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. Email us, askpete@PeteThePlanner.com. That's askpete@PeteThePlanner.com. And even later in this show, not to start, but later in this show, we will be answering a question from a woman. I believe her name is Diane, and she's in Naperville, Illinois. I'm sorry. Hi, Kristen.
Hello.
Hi, Dame.
Hey, Pete.
A little squirrely today. No, haven't had a ton of coffee. I'm just feeling very strange today. So who knows what's about to happen here on this show.
Great.
It's the beginning of a 3-day weekend. You're feeling a little loose, yeah, I can see that.
All right, here we go. At least we didn't make the show not evergreen by calling it a 3-day weekend.
Yeah,
1 minute into the show. Great. Fantastic.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Dame, you were doing a little reading this week about some economic data, and I believe Americans' opinions about our economy, and you noticed maybe there's a difference between reality and perception. Am I understanding that correctly?
You are completely understanding that correctly, and we're going to do a very special news segment in the very first part of the show today. So I'm going to read the story and we're going to make it a little bit of a guessing game. And then we're going to talk about what the heck is going on. Can we do anything about it? So you'd need to be an Olympic long jumper to bridge the gap between how well the public thinks the economy is doing and how well the economy is actually doing, according to a new Harris poll published yesterday by The Guardian. Among the 2,000 plus participants in the survey. All right, Pete, here's the guessing game. This percent of the U.S. is currently experiencing a recession, this percent of people think the U.S. is currently experiencing a recession.
Okay, I like this.
Sorry. Yeah.
Kristen, have you read this?
I actually have read the story.
Okay. So I'm the only guesser.
Unfortunately.
So you guys will just judge how bad my guess is.
Yes.
My guesses would have been bad, if that makes you feel any better, which is no surprise to anyone who listens to this show.
You know what? To be fair, your guesses have gotten a lot better over time.
That is true.
David put this in the Facebook Live chat. He put 63%. I was going to say 65 to 70. I'm going to go with 65% of people think we're in a recession right now.
Yes. It's actually 56% of the U.S. thinks we are currently experiencing a recession.
56%. Okay. That tracks. That isn't shocking, although it is certainly disappointing. It isn't shocking. Okay.
This percent believe inflation is going up.
Oh, I mean, this has got to be crazy high. I mean, this has got to be 95% of people.
Holy crap, Pete. The 72% believe inflation is going up, but
Do you think I was
no, you're way off. For context, it peaked around 9.1% in 2022, and it's now hovering between 3 and 4%.
Okay. But I just assume that, again, people don't know.
It's true.
And for me, and maybe this is where you're getting with this, Dame, I feel like these questions are colored by people's political views, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if it's always been that way, because you and I, certainly, although we are much older than Kristen, I don't think we've been around that long. I don't know if it's always been this way, but I just assume everyone's view of the economy is political at this point.
I may have been green enough to not realize or see that or read into it when I was 20 years younger, but it does seem like everything is politically tinged these days.
Before we move on, speaking of you being 20 years younger, could you please just once again send a hair pic of you to Kristen and I after the show?
Sure.
Okay. I always love a good hair pic of you.
It'll take me a little while to find one, but yeah, I'll get you one.
Thank you.
All right. This percent think the current unemployment rate is at a 50-year high.
Oh, no. What? Oh, I'm terrified to answer this one. I'm going to go very political bent here. I'm going to go 30%.
49%.
What?
By the way, for those of you playing along at home, it's near a 50-year low.
Oops.
49% of people, of the 2,000 people surveyed.
Over 2,000?
Thank you. Mm-hmm. But not 3, because they would have said 3.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, good. 50% of Americans believe, 49%, that we're at a 50-year high on unemployment.
Near a 50-year high, yes.
Kristen, how does this make you feel that you live amongst these folks?
Well, sometimes when you see really jarring statistics or people say things that are really out of pocket, I think to myself, our votes are worth the same.
I think the same. And here's the crazy part about that is it's not even necessarily someone you disagree with politically that has you feeling that way.
Right.
You know, it's not, right. It's just like, wait, if there are people who feel the same I feel politically, but they believe we're at a 50% high on unemployment.
Right.
That's so disappointing.
It's concerning.
Dame, I feel like you were a person that just really felt strongly about like high school civics and just like understanding like what was going on. We don't want to blame high school English teachers here or econ teachers or English teachers. What is going on? Why do people believe this?
I might have been voted most likely to become president in my senior class.
He was on the debate team too, probably.
No.
Wait, have we ever discussed senior superlatives on this show?
Maybe in passing once, but I don't think we've ever really gotten into it.
Briefly, Dame, so you were most likely to be president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any others?
I don't think so.
It's always embarrassing when someone wins best couple with someone they're no longer with. That's always a fun one.
But that's cool.
Yeah, that's not me. Kristen, any senior superlatives, or did they do that when you went through school?
They did, but I don't remember. I don't think anything.
Well, it may or may not surprise you the two that I was selected as in the high school yearbook, of which my children have seen recently. Biggest mouth.
And class clown.
And class clown.
Yeah.
There you go. And look at me now. Dame, what else is in this report?
One more stat. This percent believe the S&P 500 is on the decline.
When was the study again? Just I want to understand.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I didn't get the date of the study, but it has to be fairly recently.
Oh, gosh. It's going to be 72%.
49%. And by the way, it's up around 12% this year. So.
Yikes.
Man, it's but here's to be fair, Kristen, we talk about in personal finance. 2020 felt awful, but it was great. Right. So there is that cognitive dissonance between like it felt awful, but it really was good. Is that much different than this, viewing the global economy or the national economy versus your own personal economy?
I think the recession one is fair. I think people probably answer that based on how they're feeling about their dollar being squeezed, not necessarily about our collective dollar. But the one that's more interesting to me, or the inflation one, I'm sorry, the one that's more interesting to me is the unemployment one. Like, are you looking around and you think that people are having trouble finding jobs?
That's a great point. I think that was the one that shocked me the most too.
Yeah.
Dame, walking through your town, there's hiring signs everywhere. Is there not?
Everywhere.
Yeah, but not like there was probably 2 years ago, 18 months ago. And I can say this is because we've had a little bit of new construction, new businesses go up out by our highway. And so we've got some new opportunities out there. So I think it's very geographically focused on whether or not you think there are unemployment issues. And I think people are having a really hard time separating the micro from the macro. They see their bills going up. They're getting squeezed at the grocery store. Gas is expensive, and they are trying to figure out how to make ends meet on a month-to-month basis. And then they hear everything's great, and they're just frustrated.
Yeah, this is a disturbing segment. Thank you for starting the show this way. I've lost faith in 49% of Americans. All right. Coming up after the break, your email questions right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Actually, if 49% of people are wrong, I don't blame all of them. I blame like 39% of them because 10% of people, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you can't expect it to be exactly right.
What I think is really interesting is this is an election year, and the last thing the media wants to put out there is that the economy is bad, that people are feeling like it's really tough, because that is not good for an incumbent. And think what you will, but I think the media definitely has somebody they would rather see in the White House than somebody else. And they're in this article, it says the media has something to do with it, with the messaging here. So,
okay, now I'm confused, because if they're not wanting to put out there that it's bad, but everyone thinks it's bad, don't those conflict with each other?
No, they're just saying that think the media has something to do with it because they are putting things out there. And so like the gas prices are going to go up soon. I've heard that on the radio. I've seen it in print that you expect $5 gasoline prices, which, I mean, you could say that's just an annual summer scare that happens every year. But going into an election year, it seems like it might be a little tough for incumbents this year. So it calls out the media saying they have something to do with it, or they have some culpability in this, but it's the Guardian. So take it for what it's worth.
Isn't this like the whole quarterback thing, though, Kristen, where the quarterback gets often blamed too much and then gets too much credit? Or do you believe that, like, as we look at the economy, we have to point to the person at the head of our political system to say it's because of them?
I think it is like the quarterback metaphor. And I think that we should care a little bit more about people besides the quarterback.
I don't know. I think the quarterback has way more to do with the outcome of their team's performance than the president has to do with the outcome of the nation's future. President gets way too much credit and way too much blame for everything that happens in the country.
I thought that was what I was saying.
Was it?
Yeah, but I think Dame just pushed a little further. Okay. You know, it's weird, but in a like, here's. The president is the head of our government, clearly.
One of the branches,
branch. Yeah, executive branch. I am the head of our organization of which we work. And I don't ever view my goal is to take credit. My goal, frankly, is to take shrapnel, like to take blame so that our coworkers can continue to take risks and not feel like something has gone wrong. And then try to serve off as much credit for what's going on to those people out taking the risk. That is, I think, more of like a head coach sort of feel.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Than maybe a president sort of thing. But I just just give me the blame. Oh, that's on me. That's on me. Keep going. I don't know. It's strange. Okay. We did it. So that was one segment there. Is there more in it?
Well, we didn't.
ahead.
Oh, no.
ahead.
Well, I thought that you wanted to do like the second half of it, which is like what does all that mean, and like what do you do and how do you talk about it?
I was a little bit more empathetic in my recorded news segment this morning before this, saying that if you are one of these folks, here's what you do, because as Andrea points out in the comments, we're all in our own little bubbles. And we're experiencing our personal finances are incredibly personal, and our personal financial realities are whatever they are. And if you are struggling with finances, okay. Don't let anybody tell you that everything's okay if you are struggling. So
I think it's still about being objective. You can say I'm struggling, but everything else is okay. And that is not taking away from your own struggles.
Is everything okay if you can no longer afford to do some of the stuff that you've historically done because costs are inflating faster than your income is going up?
But inflation is still not going up. I mean, you're still being objective.
It's going up. It's just not going up as fast as it was.
But it does. And like, could you really afford it before? That's the other thing too, is like, I just feel, never mind. Giant can of worms.
Oh, well, I mean, this show is built on a can of worms. Okay, so inflation one, let's set that one aside. Unemployment, that is not something. It's like, oh, hey, I don't have a job, therefore unemployment's at an all-time high. Like, no one can get away with that logic.
I would think that would be a very tough position to defend right now, but I don't know all the pockets of. I'm thinking they would hit a substantial number of people on the survey in pockets that were experiencing higher unemployment. Seems unlikely, to be sure. But yeah, I just I read a report or a couple news articles this week that said the job market for recent college graduates is going to be average to below average.
Okay, I buy that. That's the other thing about unemployment, though, is it's like, let's say the expectations for recent college grads are a certain level of income in a certain industry at a certain job title. There are still jobs, but they may not be to that level. And so therefore unemployment's not high.
That's right? Fair. Maybe you were applying for jobs that you aren't really qualified for, and it was a stretch anyway. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm just going off of the articles. It says that they were college graduates were said hundreds of applications, which seems
what?
It seems a little bit much, but they're trying to say they're submitting hundreds of applications.
Well, that's because you don't have to walk into a business and fill out a paper application anymore. So that could be reality.
Was that a boomer take on us?
Yeah.
Let's get back to the show. All right. Can I go to this email from Diane?
I saw a pupper in Kristen's background. It's adorable.
Oh, it was cool.
The pup. Can I say TREAT?
No. No.
Can you bring the pup on the show real quick?
At the end of the show?
Yes.
Does she have to be in the show right now? Because if she gets up here, she's not gonna want to lay back down.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Dame, I'm going into what some people call the email inbox. Hi, Kristen and company. Kristen and Co. First off, I would like to say that Pete's podcast recommendations have been on point lately. Thank you. I feel very settled in with my podcast. I had a Smartless and then One Song have been my my recommendations recently. Do either of you have podcast recommendations that you want to put out there?
I just found one last night called Deep Cover: The Nameless Man.
Oh, say more.
It's kind of like a murder, kind of undercover, trying to figure this out. This guy apparently. How much do you want to know?
I'll listen to it. Is it true crimey or not?
Yeah, very much. Okay. So this guy apparently bragged when he was in high school that he killed somebody to try and get into this gang.
Same,
but it was in downtown Philadelphia, and at that point in time, there were a lot of unsolved murders in downtown Philadelphia, and never really got followed up on. Eventually, comes back to him, and they try and figure it out.
Before I get back to this financial email. I can't hear the word Philadelphia without immediately wanting a cheesesteak. And that is still deep within me.
So many points.
I am 43 and my spouse is almost 50. By the way, honey, if Mrs. Planner, if you're listening, I'm reading an email. This is not me. I am the winner of bread while my husband is a stay-at-home parent. We have 3 school-age kiddos. My question is, when couples are planning how much they need to reach financial independence, is each spouse calculating this number individually? Does a married couple need twice the assets to retire as a single person with the same goals, or do they base their needs in retirement on what they plan to spend as a whole household? I am also confused if your retirement number should be different if you are different ages. Please discuss. Diane in Naperville, Illinois. Great question, right? Like great question. Some of it I think is very easy to answer, but then I think the different ages thing is where it gets a little complicated. Kristen, you want to take your first swing at when calculating retirement? Do you do it based on 2 people, or how do you do this?
I would suggest at the household level, but what's so interesting is that we just had a conversation a few weeks ago, Pete and I did, about retirement equality. So how do you have retirement equality if one of you doesn't have access to a 401k? So it gets tricky really quickly, but I do think it should be calculated on the household level.
I think household level too. I think and this is where it gets awkward, and it's where it got awkward a few weeks ago. In acknowledging that you want fail-safes, you're acknowledging that a marriage can end in some capacity, right?
Right.
Even via death, right? You're saying, well, if so-and-so is not here to help complete the plan, I still want to make sure that as a single set of lungs here, I'm able to continue to breathe financially. That was weird. I told you it's going to be a weird day. I can feel it. Dane, where do you come down on this to start?
You're going to have to explain retirement equality. Is that what you were just talking about? Retirement equality is making sure assets are roughly divided in proportion so that each person could support their own retirement if failure occurs.
Yes. So apparently Dame doesn't watch the show when he's on vacation.
He shouldn't watch it when he's on. He was in paradise.
No, so yes, that's exactly what it was. We talked about it was our session for Women's History Month, and we talked about women who don't have earned income. How do they ensure that they are still financially independent? And we've just reversed the gender roles here to say, okay, what does this emailer's husband, what does the husband do as far as retirement equality? Because if you don't have W-2 income, depending on their income level, there might not be enough the contribution limits might not be high enough to use a Roth for the husband's retirement savings.
And a quadro isn't an appropriate solution for retirement inequality, whatever?
A great question. And we actually brought up a case study that you and I had worked through, which was the source of the funds in a quadro sometimes leads people to do things with those dollars that they wouldn't have otherwise done. And it's also about ensuring that you are working on your individual, but also your joint financial literacy. I understand that if this couple separates, there could be a quadro 401k dollars or split, but it's about being proactive about having assets and savings in your name too.
Is it the source of the income, or is it the fact that your income in the current state goes down? And so you start dipping into the quadro to supplement the income that was lost?
You're listening to Nerd Talk right here on the. Boy, you guys are going deep today.
Wait a minute. Okay, pause. Let's rewind. Because Diane doesn't want to know about a quadro. We're not answering Diane's question.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Sorry, Diane.
What are you talking about? Philly cheesesteaks during a financial segment here? Come on, guys. Okay. Back up for a second. When I read this email the first time, which I actually read it before the show, which sounds very strange, but I did. The first thing that occurred to me, and I think about it from time to time, and this will resonate with young Dame, is that when you have 2 income earners, boy, saving for retirement's so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it's not even about the amount of income. It's just the options of preparing for retirement are so much easier. Dame, I'm jealous.
Do you remember first getting married? You're out of college. You really don't have any expenses to speak of. I mean, you've got a little house payment. You got maybe a car payment. We really didn't have cell phones too much back then. I mean, you've got two incomes and virtually no expenses. And you're thinking, man, well, people like you and me, I could live on one income and we could save almost all of that second income. Did that not cross your mind?
Yes. Yes.
Look.
Kristen, how do you think about that? That a two-income household, I mean, you talk to people all the time. How do you look at a two-income household and their ability to save for retirement differently, despite the fact that they may not even make more than a one-income household?
See, that's so interesting because is this a generational thing? Is this a gender thing? I don't think about it that way. I think about at the household level, we need to save X percent of dollars for retirement, not saying like, okay, well, really, we're not using one income. Like, I don't even approach the equation from that perspective.
Well, I think what Dane was saying, that might be generational, oddly. The we live on one income and we save the other. I think that you could argue that's an older way of thinking that I still would subscribe to. But I think the question of, from the mechanics of retirement planning and tax qualification, it's so much easier to save for retirement with two incomes.
Yes, you are not wrong about that, because especially in higher income earning situations, we max out qualified vehicles quicker. If there's income, especially if you have like two income households and maybe one person is a little bit lower of an income earner, it's easy to then supplement into a second 401k. Yes. It's a totally different ballgame, I think.
Where this gets interesting in terms of age planning, and maybe this will take us in the next segment, or maybe Dame will talk about quadros in the next segment, is her husband will be eligible for Social Security 7 years before she will. And they could theoretically look at that as save one income and live on one income. They could take it at 62 and start to bank it, or they could keep on keeping on, wait till he reaches the higher paying out ages and bank that higher amount. And that's where it gets interesting. Let's pause. We have 20 seconds. So if you both opened your mouth like fish looking for fish food. And so I will sprinkle the flakes. And when we come back from the break, we will, I don't know. I told you today was going to be weird. I don't know what's happened in my brain. Listen, here's the thing. We're going to be back with more financial answers, talks of cheesesteaks, and maybe divorces right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. I could feel the weirdness when I woke up this morning. I really could.
Good.
I really could. And it's not, sometimes my energy is just like, and that's why it's weird. I don't have crazy high energy right now. I just have weird energy. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Nope. All right, Dame, what do you want to do? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kristen.
How does, I would like to potentially talk about it in the segment, but I don't know how it works. I can't recall. I knew somewhere in my brain, but I can't recall off the top of my head. How would Social Security work when the person with much fewer income earning years is the older spouse? How does that work? How does spousal, like, if this person's not working, what Social Security benefit can they take?
Well, if they've worked 40 quarters, then they'll have some, but they wouldn't get they can't get a spousal unless the other person has already started claiming Social Security. Okay,
that's what I thought, but that's not this person. I mean, I guess they could have, depending on what they did before the children. That's why I was like, what kind of benefit are we even talking about here?
Half of whatever the full retirement age benefit of the higher earner is.
But
Dame, I think that's only true once the person has once the high earner has filed, that is true.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. That's what I was saying. Is there a Social Security benefit until then? No. In fact, they may not be able to get diddly squat until.
At age 50, though, they've got school-aged children, so her husband had to have had some semblance of a career prior to that.
Maybe he didn't. I have two cases that I'm thinking of where The wife worked and the husband did not.
Why? Okay.
Period.
Ever?
4 children.
With that big of an age gap, though?
Oh,
That's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
know.
Like with that age gap and that achieved age, why are we not talking about this on the radio right now, by the way?
Sorry. Well, because I couldn't remember how the social security worked. And I didn't want you to have to explain that to me on the air and take up that time.
Rank these sandwiches. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the sandwiches you have to
The
rank.
points.
Okay.
By points or by taste?
No, by like your preference. Okay. So let me get them out and then you guys rank them.
Okay.
A Reuben, a Cuban, a Philly cheesesteak, a po' boy, and what's the one I'm missing?
What's a po' boy?
It's like in Louisiana. It's got like fried shrimp and less tomato.
Okay, go ahead.
What's the fifth one I'm thinking of? I don't know. Okay, so those 4. That's what you got. What am I forgetting? Anyway, those 4.
Dame.
Philly, number 1. Reuben, Cuban, tie for second, and po' boy 4.
What do you got, Kristen?
I actually don't really like any of those sandwiches.
You know what? My wife and I don't argue very much, and I think she's pretty great. She once told me early in our marriage that she's indifferent about sandwiches, and I thought it was over. I mean, I was like, the look on my face was like, I've chosen you as my life partner, and you've chosen me, and we cannot be any. I have so many sandwich takes.
I do too, but I don't like beef sandwiches generally.
Oh, gee, what are we even doing here? Oh, Italian beef was the 5th one. Sorry.
Number 1. That's the only one I like.
Wait. You just said I don't like beef sandwiches, and Italian beef is number 1.
I said generally.
We do like a BLT?
Yes.
I do like a BLT. Okay, now this is crossed over into. I might have to log points just for the discussion.
That's all right.
By the way, the answer to this is Philly cheesesteak, Italian beef, Cuban, Reuben po' boy. That's the order. Okay. What a weird show. Okay, let's try to get back into this segment. If not, I do have a follow-up from the advisor question from last week that we can get into. Oh, I propose a vote to remove Kristen as head of this
Co.
Oh, wow.
Because David. I don't like Reubens?
No, you dismissed all sandwiches.
Sandwiches, yeah.
I didn't dismiss all sandwiches.
You're a sandwichist. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Sorry, we sandwiched 2 segments with commercials here on the Pete the Planner show. Just talking about a question that came in prior to the break around a 43-year-old woman and a 50-year-old man. 50-year-old man's a stay-at-home father. 43-year-old woman's out there earning that dollar. And talking about retirement planning and what you need to think about in regards to the age gap. And where the question started to get complicated is, can he, 12 years from now, when he reaches 62, if Social Security still exists in our world, could he theoretically begin to draw on the Social Security that he was eligible for by the theoretical 40 quarters he's worked some point in his life prior to being a stay-at-home dad? Discuss.
I appreciate the alarmist shout out you give there for will Social Security exist in 12 years when this man gets to Social Security age? If you're wondering that, by the way, the answer is yes. Yes, it will. Now, will you get the full benefit? TBD. If Congress does what Congress likes to do, which is kick the can down the road, it might get a little dicey for a little while. But even if they don't do anything, you will get 75 to 80% of your promised benefit. So it won't go completely bankrupt. You will get something. Moving on.
Wow. Kristen?
I really appreciate it when you say things like that get Dame all riled up.
I do. And I like when it gets to it and Congress continues to kick the can down then you can really feel the Dame.
The sass.
Really, there you like that's full throttle Dame right there.
Who in Congress?
Here it goes.
Now,
here it is. Yeah.
Now, 12 years from now, who's Who's going to pick up that flag and say, this is the hill I'm going to die on? And if I'm a one-term
There it is.
person,
one-termer,
that it's somebody that's going to be their whole thing. I'm here for one term. This is my fix.
By the dawn's
I love it.
You know I'm right. You know I'm right. Nobody's going to do anything about it because they want to keep their cushy job. Get their
Every
pension.
conversation that includes "you know I'm right" is a good one.
Oh my god.
Am I wrong?
Kristen,
How about that?
If you are Mr. Diane, would you
Yeah.
draw Social Security at 62?
If I'm Mr. Diane, I would probably draw Social Security. I don't know that I would re-enter the workforce because school age. Here's the thing: school age kids could be a pretty wide range of ages, though.
Okay, well, but from a tax standpoint, if they've got a household income that's still substantial and then they take Social Security, they're going to be paying at a higher rate because their household income, or is it? It's not based on the individual, right?
No, it's based on their joint. So that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. School-age children, 43. Let's say they started having kids at 30. I'm just making stuff up, all right? So they've got a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old, the old 3-year gaps, right?
Yeah.
So that's 14 years, or the 7-year-old, that's 11 years until they're out of high school. That puts the guy at 61.
61. But what if your spouse is, if he's 6, then what? If the kids are out of the house, what is, like, he's raising 3 children, then what do you do?
And then I would argue, as you're raising those children, it's a little different when they get into high school. Like the daily care just changes. You're a dad Uber at that point.
Yeah.
This is fascinating, actually. And Diane, I don't know if this is the direction you wanted us to go with your question. And please understand that we are trying to respectfully discuss things by making assumptions on top of that. But this is interesting that in any one income household, where when the justification, and rightfully so, of one person staying at home changes, how does that impact the plan for the family? I think that's the essence of this that we've turned it into, Dame. No?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting point because what is being experienced right now is likely not going to be the way things always are for the remainder of the time period between now and the time either retirement age happens or the kids are out of the house, whatever it is. And so you've got to figure out, okay, well, in the between now and then, what's going to happen? How do I account for those changes, and what can we expect if they aren't? And this would be really, really interesting. I'd love to be a fly on the wall, but if they could sit down with a financial planner and go through a financial plan, I think there might be options on the table that they aren't considering right now.
I was just thinking that, Dame, in all the emails that come to us and all the cases we see, is there ever a greater need, or can we ever make a stronger argument for sitting down, even if it's for a one-time financial plan, when we have a working spouse and a non-income earning spouse? Because there are so many other conversations. I know we're talking about retirement, but there are so many other conversations that go alongside of that sometimes don't get addressed, like life insurance, beneficiary stuff. Like, I mean, I think this particular situation, even if it's just a one-time financial plan, probably the easiest argument to sit down with a planner that I could make.
We have conversations around this topic not infrequently, where one spouse works, one stays home. The twist is that it's the older spouse that's staying home right now. And there's a significant, what I would consider a significant age difference in this context for the conversation. So it's not your everyday conversation or everyday scenario that we're talking about here. So sitting down with an expert who can model these things out, take account for the assets that you've got at this point, how much you're adding to them on a yearly basis as well as what your needs are going to be in retirement and what your goals are. How much of the college education do you want to pay for those 3 kids? Is that even on the radar at this point? Are you funding all the goals that you've got out there? Have you identified all the goals that you want? There's a lot of conversation that needs to go on here. And that very one unique twist to the situation, I think, could be really important to their overall execution of a financial plan.
You know what the trend that I do like about this topic, and Dame, you and I have been doing this show for a while prior to Kristen joining us, and then I did it well before that, is it was still somewhat novel for a woman to be a bread earner and to have a stay-at-home spouse that was a man. I have to admit, in a circle that I run in right now, like with couples, friends, right, those sorts of things, of about 10 families within that, 10 or 11, 6 of them have a woman as the primary breadwinner. 6 out of 10 or 11 in the circle I run it. That's a high percentage. That is wild.
Primary or only?
Good question. Primary. 7.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 out of 11. Primary, but significant primary.
Yeah, I'm not trying to dismiss this.
Totally.
I was just more curious on whether or not it was closer related to this situation that we're talking about, or if it was just 2 income earners.
I never considered that till this moment. Now I want to go home and talk to Mrs. Planner. Like 7 out of 11.
What are you doing?
No, Dave. What are you doing?
I thought it was going to be a really, really interesting Memorial Day weekend for you.
It's not Memorial Day.
Oh, you're right.
Evergreen.
Evergreen.
It is Happy Memorial Day to people who may not be listening to this on Memorial Day. Dame is so good at pre-show instructions. All right, very quickly before we go to the break. Last week we got a question from our friend Mary, who her advisor was about to leave his firm and go to another firm. And we were saying, is this good? Is this bad? What does it mean? She didn't want to start over. And what we were a little nervous about that, because we're like, well, your investments will just roll over into just a new account, but they'll still be your investments. Here's the piece of information she followed up with that make me feel perfectly fine about this. Number one, I believe her advisor had been, he's a younger fella.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a move to like be more entrepreneurial and to go out on his own. Great. That's a good thing. Number two, the account will now just be a pass-through account through Schwab. He's not working for Schwab, but that'll be the broker on it. So it's like, great. Things can come over in kind. You shouldn't have to change your investments at all. So therefore, passes the sniff test. Everything is fine. All right, let's do this. Coming back after the break, this literally might be the biggest waste of money in the 15-year history of this show. And Kristen and Dame will tell you how much it costs next on the Pizza Planner Show. Dame, what are you, Dame, are you trying to like... I'm just getting this new slim body. I don't want to have to go put it on the market. Okay, let's think. Oh, man.
It's for entertainment purposes only, Mrs. Planner.
I cannot think.
My comment's not Pete's body.
Of a less successful venture than me trying to attract the attention of a new partner. Like I was at the
That's
soccer.
Not a compliment to your wife.
Well, no, but I'm saying like, this is more about what I'm suggesting is like the idea of like easing into a relationship. I'm just like, at this point, I'm a hot take machine in my life. Like, I'm like, hey,
You're not a hot take machine anymore. What are you talking about?
No, I guess that's true. I just like, I don't know.
We can dig through the archives and get more hot takes if you want.
If you'd like.
Man, the Rev brings up something pretty great. Sarah says, "Is Sarah Renfro, not Mrs. Planner? Is Pete going to wear fashion camo on Memorial Day?" That's an amazing question. And Danza said, "Borrowed valor, not stolen, just borrowed." That's a good question. No, because you brought it up. I tend to forget. Although I do have a pair of shorts that when I work in the yard are of it is a fashion camo. And I won't wear them on Monday. How's that?
That's
Good
fair.
call. Maybe not for the whole weekend, actually.
I love that I said I have a pair of shorts I wear in the yard. Like, what a dumb statement. I have one particular shorts that I wear in the yard. And what a moron.
I would give you a pass to wear those shorts to the track if you're going this year.
I'm not going to go sit through that rain festival on Sunday. True. It is just going to be racing pairs of animals around the track trying to find the ark. I'm not interested. That was a religious. Okay, let's go. In I got a meeting. Sorry, Jeremiah. Not that. Sorry, Jeremiah. 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week, right here on the Pete the Planner show, is the Bark Air. Bark Air. Traveling with a canine companion can be a huge pain. Dog-centric treat and supply brand Bark is looking to fix this by launching Bark Air. This new airline uses chartered Gulfstream jets to offer dog-centric air travel. Travelers and their human companions arrive an hour before their flights with a smooth check-in and security process that helps keep the furry customers calm. This is where it gets wild. There's plenty of room to stretch out on board with amenities that include...
Oh, no.
Fire hydrant.
A drink of the dog's choice timeout.
Granted.
What does a dog drink other than water? I have never in my 46 years considered that a dog will drink something other than water, whether it's out of the toilet, out of a bowl, out of a hole in the ground. What in the world will a dog drink other than water? I go to dog owner, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kristen Alanius.
My dogs have preferences and type of water. That is true.
Okay, say more.
So here at my house, I have city water and they don't really drink all that much water. And if they go to my mom's house, who has a well, they drink like 3 times the amount of water. She runs it through a Berkey filter and they love it. It's an actual thing. So they apparently have water preferences.
I wonder if this Gulfstream dame will have well water on board.
Run through a Berkey filter, actually.
I hate to tell you this because we're in the middle of a financial show, or not to tell you this, but just bring this up. Do you remember the first time you realized that there was a difference between city water and well water? And as a kid, and you're like, this is wild. And I like well water. It's just so unique. But do you remember that? Do you remember like, what? Anybody?
100%. There was a golf course close to me when I grew up, and they had these little hand pump wells you could get water out of. The best water I've ever had in my life. I miss it to this day.
Calming music, warm lavender-scented refreshment towels, and various Bark-branded treats and snacks served throughout the flight. Service is launching with routes between New York City, Los Angeles, and London, with more routes to be added over the summer. What is the beginning cost of a flight to give your dog the choice of water, lavender-scented refreshment towels, and room to stretch out? Kristen?
Can you remind me the destinations again?
New York, LA, and London.
It costs $6,000.
Is this for you and your pet, or just the pet's the pet portion of it?
I think it's the companion, so it's you and the pet.
25 grand.
Ladies and gentlemen, someone has hit it right on the head. Someone has hit this. If this was the Price is Right, I think there's a siren maybe that goes off. Bob Barker, may he rest in peace, pulls a crisp $100 bill out of his pocket, I believe, and hands it to the person. And the person receiving the virtual $100 bill today is none other than dog owner herself, Kristen Lane, $6,000.
Look at that.
Dame, what is in the news this week?
We've all made an embarrassing typo at work.
Yes.
While I'm over here blushing about my latest apostrophe slip up, Citi just agreed to pay 61.6 million pounds, that's about 79 million US dollars, in fines to UK regulators over a trader's mistyped share sale order that caused a flash crash in European markets in 2022. Listen to this. The trader meant to sell $58 million worth of shares, but accidentally punched in an order to sell $444 billion worth. Pete, time out.
Yeah, granted.
How does that happen? I mean, what did I say? 58 million, 444 billion.
That's not a typo. That's lets you drop your donut, you drop your scone on the keyboard.
No, but it was 2 different units of measurement, right? Didn't we go from shares to dollars? or no?
Possibly. It's $58 million worth of shares, but accidentally punched an order to sell $444 billion worth of shares.
So it was the quantity of shares that they mistyped. They added a 0 or something.
Well, that could be. The city's city system blocked a good chunk of the order, but $189 billion worth made it through, causing a $1.4 billion erroneous sale before the trader canceled the order, spurring a brief sell-off across Europe.
Okay, so they're on this show. We have people who have put in equity orders before.
Yes.
It was a very long time ago for me. It was 14 years ago. It was the last time I put in an equity order. 12 years ago. I don't think I ever fat fingered it. I don't think I ever messed up that bad. Did you guys ever enter an incorrect order?
I'm sure I did at some level, but nothing that, I mean, even percentage wise, nothing that significant.
I definitely did not. I used to call compliance and make them sit on the phone with me, and I would read it back and forth twice before I would.
That tracks so well.
I don't know if that's surprising to anyone.
Oh God, Pete, it's Kristen again. Hold on, I got to talk her through this trade.
Oh my gosh, compliance loved you. Well, here's the thing about compliance: they probably loved it.
Honestly, because I wasn't messing up. She never had to correct anything for me ever.
Great, but I mean, you're taking up time out of their day to do a basic task in the job. I mean,
all right. One day on the show, maybe next week or next time we have a show, we are going to do an entire maybe show, but definitely a segment on inside compliance.
Oh my!
Right, I think we've got to, because people don't understand. Like, unless you've been subject to compliance in the securities world, you don't even know.
We're talking annual reviews and everything.
Let's do a whole show. No one will care, but we will giggle.
No one will care.
56 minutes.
Can we have listeners submit their compliance stories too?
Sure. Dame, what else is in the news?
I mentioned that little story the other week about FDIC Chair Martin Gruenberg being called the latest, was it Weinstein? And he's going to resign after the investigation found widespread sexual harassment at his agency. But
don't say "but" during a sexual harassment.
Thank you. He won't step down until a successor is named, avoiding passing the reins to his Republican vice chair.
What a joke.
This is serious. I know we've screwed up here, but I'm still going to play the political angle, and I'm going to hang on just long enough to make sure that my successor can be named.
What else is in the news? No patience.
72%. That's the share of U.S. adults who said that they were doing at least okay financially in 2023, according to a Fed survey. That's down from 73% the prior year and 78% in 2021, when people were flush with cash from pandemic stimulus checks. Parents living with children under the age of 18 felt worse. Surprise. With 64% saying they were doing all right financially, down from 69% in 2022 and 75% in 2021.
This is more about personal economies, so this actually tracks better than people's view on the national economy that was in the first segment. So I would buy that.
I think that's how they're conflating it. People are viewing their personal economy as the economy overall. They have to be able to separate the macro from the micro.
Yeah, I was a college econ major at one point before I dropped that for business admin. And I will note that it took me a good 2 to 3 semesters to understand the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics, which is why I didn't double major. And now I have a radio show. Okay. All right. Dame, do you have 20-second story left?
Live Nation and Ticketmaster are going to have to split up. DOJ says so.
Don't care. Hate concerts, parking issues. Kristen, will this matter?
I hope so.
I mean, will this save you money?
Yes, it will. It will save me personally a lot of money.
Is it just the fees? I always hear about fees. Is that the deal?
Fees are ridiculous. I'll tell you a story about fees
some other time. All right, everybody, grab the ones that you love. And I don't know. That's not our close. Hey, I'm sending you good vibes because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner Show. All right, bring that puppers up into the. Okay, can I go full screen?
Yes.
Hold on.
Okay.
I have to grab one of them. No,
Oh, wait.
take me off the screen.
Okay, sorry.
They're sleeping. I gotta wake them up. Hold on.
True. She just closed her camera. All right, so I'm gonna go full layout for her here.
Yeah, sure.
Her dogs are so cute.
They are.
The one that was in the meeting.
Do you think one will have a bandana on today?
I don't know. Probably. They tend to.
Okay, here's one. They were sleeping. They're very upset.
Blocked by the microphone there.
I know. Hold on. Come here. Look, because my walking pad's over here and he doesn't like it. Come here. This one's gray. Come here.
This is a great podcast. Okay, let me describe this. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the podcast, what you're seeing is a beautiful, beautiful dog. And Kristen's there too. Okay, great.
That was great.
Okay. Wait, are we still gathering dogs? Who's this one?
We can go. It's the same.
It's the same. She's only got two, Pete. Come on.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't have to be on this screen anymore.
Okay. Let's end the show. How about more of me? Everybody have a good weekend. It is Memorial Day weekend for podcasters.
Pete.
It's podcast. It doesn't matter. Stay getting money.